Maybe you can come close. Let me quickly explain the theater.
If you say it
So-
loud enough, they'll all hear.
I hope so. So, in the Greco-Roman world, we have two type of theaters. We have Greek theaters, then Roman theaters. This one is a mixture of both. So we would call it a Greco-Roman theater. The main difference is usually the Greek theaters are made inside of the mountain. So they need something like a support, okay? But Roman theaters can exist individually in any place, like the Colosseum in Rome, all right? So these are Greco-Roman theaters, meaning that initially they were built up by the Greek people, but they were amplified or altered by the Roman people in a different time, okay? This has capacity for 25,000 people. That's why we think that the entire population of the city was 250,000. Roman people did not register the population most of the times. We know that only 10% of the people, of the population, was able to go inside of the theater. They had permission to go inside of the theater, okay? So theater looks like a public space today, but this was not such a public space, which is something strange because if you watch some movie about Roman times, you would see in the theater women, poor people, sometimes villagers yelling, doing something. We know that that was not the situation. First of all, you have to be a Roman citizen. You have to pay taxes. You have to have a family. This is not for like any people. And definitely this is an entirely masculine space. Only if you're an important woman, like a woman from the royal family, you would enter inside of the theater, okay? For sure, we know that they use this theater for gladiator fights, okay? Because during the excavations, they found the cemetery in Ephesus, where they had a lot of inscriptions along with the bodies of the gladiators. And these games were violent. That's why we have this wall, right, between the people who used to sit here in order to watch the game and between the game itself, the gladiators. Also, behind you, you will see some tiny rooms that were utilized to guard some exotic animals because during this fight they used to have lions, tigers, elephants, all sorts of animals coming from the African countries. And we know that also most of the Christians during 300 years were utilized in the games. So if they are punishing someone for being a Christian, one of the most common ways was to do the spectacle in the theater, okay? So this is a huge place originally. The normal size is a lot bigger. If you pay attention, you will see that it continues actually. Because when I say 25,000, sometimes you think that they could not fit here, but they can when it was in its original size, okay? There are different tunnels. The tunnels that you're seeing on your right and left were used by the actors, okay? In order to go to the esquina. So we have this typical parts of a theater. We have a place called Skina, okay? This was a lot higher, and theater had the form of the letter D, like this. It didn't have a roof, okay? But it used to have this letter D shape in order to sustain a more acoustic environment. This is the most important part because when two people are talking here, the ones sitting at the utmost seats, they were supposed to listen everything that they were telling. In a period, they didn't have any microphones or anything. So they used to have some techniques in order to make a more acoustic ambient. They used to put, for example, marble vases full of water at two parts of the orchestra, okay? They used to put some copper pieces under the stairs so they can amplify the sound a little bit more because copper transmits sounds past it. So they used to have their techniques in order to make something a little bit more acoustic inside. The place that we have that has the capacity to sit is called cavea in Latin, okay? The places that has the stairs to go on and up, as you can see, they are called diazoma. Those are the different sections. This is important because each section would belong to some particular community, okay? If you're an important person, you are near the orchestra. If you're not that important, probably you're something different, somewhere else different, okay? So also you can see two big tunnels that the people use in order to go in and out, not the actors. Those are called vomitarium in Latin language. This one and that one, okay, which is the little ruin. The verb itself, vomitar, means to exit actually. We're using it in a different sense right now, but these would be the big tunnels connecting the people to the inner part of the theater. They found tickets on clay tablets. We know that they used to have seat numbers, tickets, everything, just like the modern theaters that we have today. One thing particular about the theater of Ephesus is the water canal. Pay attention, we have a water canal. Okay? So why would we have it? This was the big questions of the archaeologists excavating in the city. Some people suggested that the games were so bloody they used to wash this part, so that's why they needed the tunnels. And some people theorized that, because we know this from traveler accounts, if they used to have this theatrical presentation about a war that happened on a sea, right? Like the famous Iliad and Odyssey. If, for example, this is a game or a theatrical representation about the Trojan War, right? They say that they filled the theater in order to create an artificial pool and put the ships on top of the water, okay? Maybe that was why they hid this water canals that you can see all around you. This is a theater where St. Paul preached personally, okay? He came here in order to talk about this religion, and this is something crazy because this is like the first contact of Christianity with the state religion that we call paganism. Imagine that 25,000 people listened about Christianity for the first time in this theater, which makes this place insanely important for the Christian history. Okay, I will leave the word soon to our pastors, to Josh and Gus, but we know that the Ephesus of those times was quite big and metropolitan. So in Ephesus, you would have Jewish people, Persian people, Egyptian people, Greek people, Arab people, Syrian people coming from all around the world, practicing different religions. So we have this huge problems with false prophets. You will see that in the letter we have this community that is named Nicolaitans, right? Or Nicolatians with their Greek names. We also see them in Pergamum and Thyatira. When I take you, I will tell you about. The word itself names the followers of Nicholas, a certain Nicholas, who was obviously a false prophet. And we have loads of them. So the job of St. Paul in this city is particularly difficult. Keep that in mind. And people say that they stayed here, Paul stayed here during 3 years. This is a lot of time. So he possibly knew that his job here was quite important. Okay? The last thing that I will say about the theater, that this is an actual functioning theater. In the summer, you will be able to come here in order to see some concert, and it's also possible to rent the space for some wedding ceremonies. Yeah, in case you wanted to get married.
Because we have
That's the theater of
25,000 people
Ephesus.
coming to our wedding.